Fourth day of IoT Security Masterclass. That's on automotive network security. I will be talking about in this session about the automotives, how the digital transformation is affecting of the automotive network. Automobiles are now not only just a vehicle, but with the digital transformation, it is a kind of a distance that it is giving you now. Whether you are in a vehicle or you are out of vehicle, you are getting a complete digital assistance through your vehicle itself. And the level of this assistance is going higher and higher, and the kind of autonomy that your vehicle is going to have is just a L4 or L5 level of autonomy in some recent times. So if such things are happening, so we are actually through a completely connected environment. So completely the vehicle from a mechanical or I can say from an automobile, it had just converted into a complete electronic gadget kind of a thing. Your vehicle is going to be, and so it involves a lot of data item, and not only your personal data items that is related with your vehicle, but also the controls and by just altering the some features of your vehicle, a lot of bad things could also be done. So that's why if we have to prevent all these kind of things, so we have to see the automotive network in a complete holistic way. It is just today I'm going to talk you about the automotive network, but lots of other things are also involved. So that is in a holistic way, it is under the automotive cyber security concepts. So I will be opening the layers one by one, and today is all about this automotive network security that I'm going to talk to you about. So as I was talking about that, this is a complete digital transformation your vehicle is going to have, and most of the vehicles have got this digital transformation. Like you see that now in all the vehicles, you have a kind of either a mobile app communication or a tab communication or a controls through your mobile app. Thereafter, the control is going through the cloud modes. So lots of things are happening. The day has gone where the manufacturer, the OEM, were manufacturing the vehicles, and thereafter it goes to the distributor, and from the dealer network it goes to the in the hand of the customers. And the company who is manufacturing these vehicles doesn't know about that to whom the vehicle has been sold. So that those days have gone now. Now the company who is manufacturing these vehicles are in constantly touch with the end customer, and end customer can put request to the vehicle manufacturer also for some customizations and the kind of things. So if this is a such level of communication is happening, so the lot of data item is getting generated. So it is a very necessary to secure those data items, and specifically in terms of the vehicles, that's why it is very necessary, because it is related to your human life. If the vehicle is on a road and some alterations has been done with the parameters of your vehicle, so it can damage a lot to not only to you but the other surrounding environment, to the ecosystem. It can create a lot of damage. So uh, this IoT security, so securing the complete ecosystem of your vehicle is very necessary. Not only the hardware, not only the kind of communication that is within the vehicle, but also the communication that is happening between the vehicle and the cloud, and the communication that is happening between the vehicle and the a manufacturer of the vehicle, like the OEMs. And in recent times, you will also see that V2I communication and V2X, like your vehicle is remain in a communication with the infrastructures. Like your vehicle is going on, you are driving a vehicle on a road, or maybe your vehicle is an autonomous drive and it is on a road and it needs an assistance. In the meantime, it has got broken down and needs an assistant. So nearby a service station could be called up automatically, and it would be guided to the nearby service station automatically, where your vehicle has registered itself the a call for the kind of repair, or maybe just we have talked about automated parking system that Mr. Was the person I have talked about. So he's making about the automated parking system. So as you are driving along on a road, so if any space is available on any of the parking lot, so it could be booked uh, as you are advancing towards that lot. So such kind of things are going to happen, and most of the things are getting improved also. So that's the I can say it about the V2I communication and V2X communication. So so these so with all these kind of features, it becomes necessary to think about the kind of provision of security in all respect. In a complete holistic way, we need to think about the security. Not only it is the security once you have designed the systems, but from the life cycle, from the day when the planned, from the day when the vehicle has been ideated, the security also has to be planned, because now the vehicle is not only a job of the vehicle design is not only the job of an automobile engineer or maybe the mechanical and all the engineers, but the 60 to 70% the electronics is also over there. So and not only the electronics, but these cloud and thereafter the AI, all these things are taken care of. So from the day, all the team needs to ideate and work on all these things. So in this masterclass series, we are going to specifically talk about the network security. And before that, I just want to give you an introduction that Pragyatmika you must be knowing about, because I can see that lots of people are rejoining the sessions, but still we are having the wings for the training and for the consultancy, as I've told you, and we are open for enterprises and the academic wings. We have the support systems for the industries, for the governments, for the startups, and universities for the trainings and the kind of lab setups. And our primary working domains are industrial IoT, embedded systems, the electric vehicle domain, and automotive electronics, industrial electronics. So all these are our primary working domains. We are specifically working on microchip product specialization areas. So just cross coming to the main topic. So digital transformation I was talking about. So it is the digital transformation is affecting, or I can say that it has enhanced the automotive domain in a very a good manner. We have got a lot of push from the technology and the pull from the consumers, I can say, because these are the demands that is coming from the consumer side, and the technology men are working towards that and providing the features day by day. And with the multiple vendors, it is providing a competitive pressure also. And so that's how this digital transformation is completely had changed the scenarios into this a vehicle domain. And vehicles were earlier thought of just only a means of a transport, but here it is not only a means of a transport, but it has been converted into a complete whole new consumer services, the OEMs. And so it can give you the kind of feel and the kind of security, like if you are in your vehicle, you can feel secure, such kind of things that the vehicle is now giving you. So not only just transportations, but a kind of safety, the kind of comfort, the kind of service availabilities. So all these things your vehicle is going to provide you now. So there are of some maturity into these connected car services, and connected car markets are being gathered now. So here is just some data that is there, that in these connected car services, how these percentage of data is there towards the various aspects of the vehicle. And I can say that complete automobile ecosystem. And so if these are the kind of parameters, like safety is the parameter, the vehicle management, and that is from the remote vehicle management I'm talking about. Thereafter, the infotainment system. So all these things are leading a new way of innovation into your vehicle. So you can see that this transparent electronics technology, or the kind of auto assist features, the automated driving features, the ADAS features, the help of the LiDAR features. So kind of innovations are leading a very uh, a, a great way where you have a kind of a feeling that want to use, like a kind of thing like any of your friend has purchased a new iPhone, for an example. So you have seen those features and now you want also those. So that's a want to have. Okay, just a moment. So these vehicles are giving you a want to have to want to use feature, or a feeling, I can say. So like any new electronic gadget that comes to your friend, and you want those gadgets also, because it has a very features. So same way, these innovations are leading a way so that these automobile vendors are providing the new kind of things to their vehicle a day after. So that's how this features are also increasing, and the platform is developed. The automobile development platform is going to be has gone in such a standard way that on top of the services could be added very easily onto these vehicles, and you can get the new features very easily and very in a very time effective manner from those vendors. So but the thing is that even having these kind of features, even having these connected car feature, or all these kind of things, so what are the sources of a data are from your vehicle? So it is the customer behavior, because nowadays we have these e-mobility into the much talk, and for the e-mobility sector specifically, it is very necessary to know about the customer behavior, the uses of the vehicle, the customer patterns. So with the help of this digital transformation, we are able to gather those data so that we can improve a lot about in our designs. What the thing is that in case of the normal petrol or diesel vehicles which you are using for ages, so they have some standard designs, they have some standard engine designs, they have some standard kind of I can say the length, width, and everything is there. The designs that I'm talking about, the aesthetics I'm talking about. But in case of and we have less chance of altering those systems, because the kind of the space that is been taken by those engines and the dynamics system, everything is almost fixed, and very less creativity in the hand of the designers to work on the change of the aesthetics and the look and feel of the vehicle. But that is completely contrary in these e-mobility sector, where we have creativity to play around the designs of the vehicle, because you have the very ample space available, because of the kind of drivetrains, the small drivetrains available, and the kind of aerodynamic designs that you can give. So the customer behavior is a very new source of a data, and that the OEMs can gather the vehicle, the driving patterns, and the environment where it has been used, and what the environment pattern, what the environmental parameters are leading the degradation of the vehicles. So all these things can be get into the business units and a big data system, and that could be transformed into the actionable insights. So So people are actually would share their 80%, and it is a data that has been gathered that 80% of the people are willing to share their connected car data with the manufacturer or the dealer. So this data is the new oil, I can say, and that's the proverb that you are saying must be hearing of. So, but still, what to do with these data items and how to secure these data items. So many of industry players are very less aware about all these things, and that's why this IoT security is a very major concern to look around. With this feature of these connected vehicles, there is a lot of key trends have been found out, and these trends have been like We are having the software-driven experiences into the vehicles, lots and lots of connected features that you are going around. Thereafter, the autonomy and okay, so I was talking about the key trends into this industry. Connectivity. So we are having a very uh, features of these software-driven experiences I was talking about. Thereafter, the autonomy and connectivity, that is vehicle, and the industry is good to know about now the consumer buying patterns for the vehicles, and that's how you can say that there is some data is also that I'm going to share you, that how the consumer buying patterns are going to change the complete market segment. But before that, I'll just let you know about the architecture of these vehicles. So, and how it is necessary to related to your IoT security, these architecture, why it is making you the effect. So today I'm talking about that we are having a gateway kind of architecture in your vehicles where you have the multiple data centers, domain controllers, I can say here in the terms of the vehicles. So for management of each and every unit of your vehicle, you have the multiple domain controllers, and this is a kind. This is the semi-connected vehicles I'm talking about, and you have a gateway architecture. Through those domain controllers are connected, and your data is going to send to the cloud level, and you are having a fine control on the vehicles. But here there is a no say a full autonomy is there. It is the L1, L2, L3 level of autonomy, semi-autonomy that you have into your vehicles, and you are gathering the data from your vehicle. And what the thing planned tomorrow. So new architecture that has been planned is of L4 or L level 5 of autonomy, where you have a complete centralized architecture. You have almost a central server that is put into your vehicle, which is being autonomous in itself and controlling all the units of the vehicle. And the driver will have very lesser control onto the vehicle. In this case, he will be sitting idle and it will pave the way for the V2X communications, which I was talking about. So, and there is a lots of electronics is there involved in this case. Around 40 to 60% of the vehicle cost is into the electronics, and we have the lots of ECU units over here. So this is a completely getting expensive. This electronics is completely getting expensive in this case, and the kind of electronics that is getting embedded into your vehicles is leading the way for thinking about these security matters. So it is the demand that is uh, now from these kind of your vehicles, like your the safety, security, privacy, thereafter the localizations, because these kind of demands that is from the vehicle for keeping the data your data safe, and at the same way, these are opening a lots of attack surfaces. Like if your vehicle is getting connected, so it is the first attack surface that you are getting. And as long as more and more you are going to connect your vehicle with the ecosystem, and the kind of say I can the data I can say that the kind of environment, the outer environment you are getting connected through the interfaces, you have the more and more attack surfaces with your vehicle. So so the first thing that OBD port you must be known about. So these OBD ports are the first convenient way to access your vehicle diagnostic data. But this OBD port is again giving you a very open attack surface. Like if that OBD port is not your secured one, so and there is a kind of thing is there only you are thinking about. So this security is a complete structure of three things. First, it is your the encryption, and most of the designs you see that only they think about the encryption. So if you are just putting an encryption into your data, and leaving the integration and authentication thing. So you are leaving your data in a kind of an open environment where by just learning the machine algorithms or by just learning the pattern of your data, one can easily decrypt your data items. So OBD port is kind of a port where you have an encrypted data, and if you are not providing these integrity aspects, so one can very easily read through your data items. So OBD only provides access to limited set of vehicle data, it is true, but also almost all the ECU parameters that you can get through it. And because it is the encryption is only a way, and in most of the older generation cars, you see that even that encryption is not provided in their OBD ports. So it is a very insecure way, and one can easily get the ECU data from your vehicle, and later on can with. But newer generation cars, the connected cars, they have these CAN and Ethernet PHY communications going through it. So, and these are connected through the cloud. So TBs of data is getting generated, and all these data must be remain interoperable and shareable among the applications. So that's why the security here is an important aspect. So so 20 years ago, it is the car was just a kind of thing that you just lock it. So theft was the main security threat that time, and we were just considering about the locking the systems and just immobilize your system so that one cannot move the engines, move the vehicle using the engine. But now we have the multiple attack vectors because the vehicle is communicated. So it is the Bluetooth communication or your 4G communications, the OBD port. So all these are the attack, all these are the communication means through which the multiple triggering of safety critical functions like the vehicle acceleration, the brake activation, and I'm talking about these in connected cars. We have the timing diagrams, like you have the ADAS, and the timing diagram of those ADAS could be altered. Maybe the shadow, the fake shadow could be just imprisoned in front of your vehicle, or false traffic signals could be just put simulations of those false traffic signals could be just put in front of your vehicle, and those things can easily be altered around by just changing your data. So here in this, I'm talking about that what are the consequences you have if you don't think about providing the security to your vehicle architecture. So it all involves completely the architecture planning of the security for your automobile IoT, and it all is covered under the cyber security for the automobile applications. So in that, starting from the hardware layer to the complete application layer of the automobiles, it requires the design of the secure layer. And today it is the network security that I'm talking. So here there are lots of drivers towards those automotive security is there. So in this network security, it Uh, first, we have the driver towards that secure authentications, like you are having the CAN into your vehicle. Nowadays, we have the mostly CAN and CAN FD communication is there. So CAN FD has a better payload space for implementing these secure authentication layers. So from CAN to CAN FD, we have one driver. Thereafter, there are the standards that is being drawn, and this is from USA, NSTSA. So these are the some document numbers are there, and thereafter the security assessment documents number are there from the SAE. So all these are the driver elements towards security planning. And here data says that more than 50% of vehicles sold worldwide in 2015 were connected. And now by 2025, it is been just planned that it is by by almost all the new cars which will be coming up will be connected in a multiple ways. So we will have the multiple protocols for the communications, and as we are open to the multiple protocols, so we are having the multiple more attack surfaces also. So once I'm talking about the network security, so there are the three priorities I'm going to talk about. So as I have told you that once we are talking about the network security, the three things that we need to look at. First, it is the encryptions, and lots of security algorithms just end with those encryptions only. So security parameters end with those encryptions only. So it is this encryption is a one thing that we look at, and for that we have these secure key storage feature. Thereafter, we are now doing the firmware over the air firmware updates. So we need to plan about the secure boot and secure firmware update features, and then it is the authentication. So like if any application is going to be connected, going to be communicated with your vehicle, so for that it needs an authentication, or maybe the V2X architecture I'm talking about, so it also needs an authentication. So these three are the priorities for our message for our network security that I'm going to talk over here. So first, it is the secure key storage I was talking about. So secure key is like your private key and public key architecture which you implement in your communication. So like normally what happens that you have a CAN transceivers, and from the CAN receiver to the CAN transmitter to the CAN receiver, the data goes on, and you have a particular payloads over there. And here, this secure key architecture gives you to implement a layer of security between these CAN communication. So there are the secure key authentication ICs are there, and they are available from almost all the semiconductor companies you can check on. So these are the secure key authentication ICs, which is there to use these certificates, the public keys, the private keys, and all the things, uh, and the kind of authentication layer that it provides between the communication, so between these transceivers. So, and it also stores these session keys, and these session keys are necessary to be to be there for matching the authentications. So, and this secure key also gives the feature for this TLS layer protection that I'm going to cover you in the end of this session. So these four features, first it is the a key storage feature, thereafter the communication session storage feature, thereafter the once we are doing this firmware updates, so we need to uh, we need to make a partitions into our boot sector so that we can do proper authentications without being a lag, because once you are implementing these security, so what happens that during the process of authentication, it takes some milliseconds or a seconds of time it can take, but you have a parameter that your system should be up within these amount of a time. That's a fixed time that you have, because you are in a real-time system designs. So we need to develop a partitioning of the codes, and that's how we can do these secure boot, we can implement these secure boot features. So this security IC, that the secure authentication chipset that I'm talking about, it gives the feature for giving for providing the facility for these secure boots. And the second thing is that it gives an integration easiness, because what happens that if you are implementing the secure keys, or the kind of encryption that you are implementing with your data item, so you will be storing those data. If you don't have available these secure ICs, so you will be storing those data with your microcontroller itself, the host microcontroller itself, and you need to implement a complete stack. So a complete security stack that you need to implement into your host microcontroller. But if you are implementing these secure IC architecture, so very less minimal amount of code that you need to write, and all the things are being taken care by these secure ICs. These can do the authentication and key agreement that these ICs can do, and it can work very well for the symmetric and asymmetric, both of the types of the keys. So we can just select during the configurations that what are the public key, the symmetric key algorithms or the asymmetric key algorithms you are working on. So based on that, it can select the communications and can uh, can work on. It also has this secure authentication chipsets has these random number generation facilities. So if you are implementing your securities based on your encryption algorithms based on the random number pattern, so it also has those features and can work on, and it can implement the CMAC, the kind of communications that is there in the CAN is that for the MAC layer. So the HMAC and CMAC are the serial communication standards are there of between the layers. So it gives you the protections of those also. So how this is there? So is it just a chip that has been implemented? So no, it gives a complete hardware layer of protection to your devices. What happens that if you are implementing this thing into your chipset, into your host microcontroller, so this host microcontroller remains accessible easily on the board, and it can be altered like kind of voltage probing, or maybe the any attack, or maybe if it is connected through any other serial interfaces, or maybe the JTAG interfaces it is connected, your microcontroller, definitely it will be because it has to communicate with lots of other parts of the system. So these are the multiple attack surfaces are there for your host microcontroller, and it can be easily hacked on. But if these things like the thing that I'm talking about here, the automotive secure, this security IC, the secure authentication chipset. So if it is a separate into your system that is implemented, so it gives you a complete hardware protection, because generally it is implemented along with a shield. That's a hardware shield is there, and those hardware shields are not very easily temperable. So that's how it remains. And the memories which related to this is internally encrypted. So this secure authentication chipset has inbuilt firmware level and the VLSI layer of encryption that remains with it. And your data is completely independent. So whatever the data that you are going to transmit has the keys attached with it. So whatever the data that is being transmitted through these CAN layers, so that will have the authentications and the encryptions, but this doesn't have to deal with this secure architecture, with this secure IC. And if we have these things separately on a hardware, so it is foolproof, it is fail-proof from this voltage and temperature attacks. So your IC could not be, your host microcontroller could not be attacked with these things. And if one tries to attack these secure authentication chipsets using these voltage temperings, or maybe the temperature temperings, or kind of other attacks, that the physical attacks that one wants to do. I think in our third session we have seen lots of kinds of hardware attacks that could be done to the chipset. So if all those attacks are one want to do it, so these memories get deflected itself, and your keys remain intact. One cannot just copy the key from your layers from these chipsets. So because it is there in a hardware format, not in the firmware. And because these chipsets are separate from your host microcontroller, and it doesn't have any other communication interface, so it gives you no debug probe points. So what happens that if you have to just compromise anything in a hardware way, any host microcontroller, if you has to compromise, so you just start with the debug points. Like you design any system and you have a serial interface from your microcontroller. Through those serial interface, you are just printing the debugging data. And if I am a system compromiser, so I will first target your serial interface. I will first target to compromise your system through those serial interfaces, or maybe the JTAG interfaces. But here, these chipset ICs doesn't have any communication interface with the real world. So you don't get any debug or probe points, and that's how it remains safe. So they are very good to defend you against of the timing attacks, thereafter the fault injection attacks, the clock glitching attacks, all these power cycling attacks. So all these kind of attacks that you can get the uh, uh, into these using these ICs. Now it comes these secure boot and secure firmware update features. So what happens that once you are designing these real-time systems, so in these real-time systems, you have a particular time your system up. And if you are not performing, if you are not making your system up within those time, so what happens that the performance or the performance audit of your system goes just it fails on the performance audits. So uh, we we implement, and what happens that if we are in a connected vehicle domain, so we have to implement these secure boot and secure firmware updates. So over the air updates are very necessary in the industrial IoT domain. Specifically, I'm talking about, or any of the IoT systems. So how do we authenticate that the over the air update that is coming from any of the source is from a valid source or not? So the source from where the update is coming is valid or not. And secondly, that from a factory perspective, that you are sending the updates to your over the air updates that you are sending to your ECUs, are they valid to receive your updates or not? So this secure boot and the secure firmware update. So this IC also provides that feature for the secure boot. So this allow ECUs to be installed or updated with authentic software. So how? Like in some of the cases in your the real life, in your in your HP printers, you must have seen these kind of things that the connected HP printers, or even non-connected HP printers, if you have seen that the cartridges are there, and if you have just bought any fake cartridge, any duplicate cartridge from the market, which is not from the HP authorized, so it doesn't work with your printer. So similar kind of things that can happen over here also. And in case of the connected one, the firmware update doesn't happen on these HP printers in those cases. So similar kind of thing happens for these ECUs. So if uh, there are the session keys that is being thrown, and it only executes issue software that has not been tampered with. So for this thing, we need to require, we require to store these session keys and the hash values for your firmwares. So what happens that if we are implementing directly these secure boot feature without storing these values into the key, so it impacts a lot on our issue startup time. So that's why these what we do, what we generally plan, that we divide the boot sectors into the multiple portions, like 4 portion you have been described over here. And we just match a portion with the address of 1 portion into the secure key storage. And if that portion matches, so we can give the signal to ECU to start. Or maybe if we are doing the firmware update, so we can give the command to update the firmware of that particular portion. So portion by portion, we can update the firmwares, or by just dividing these portions into the boot sector, we can allow the ECU to start up within the time, and we can check the whether it has been tempered or not. So it gives you the feature of a full or a partial boot sector analysis, or if in any of the tempering is done, so later on the boot could be just called back, and it gives the feature for the storage of the hashes of the firmwares to be stored, and if the hashes match, only then the firmware is updated and it can work. So these secure authentication ICs that I'm talking about, they are available from the multiple vendors, semiconductor vendors, and they are open to be associated with any of the microcontrollers. So like, for an example, if you are buying a secure authentication chip from these Maxim integrated, so it can be integrated with a ST microelectronics chip also, or maybe there are the secure authentication chips like ATECC device is available from Microchip, so that can be integrated with any of the host microcontroller. So these gives you the feature for the scalability, the first thing, because whatever the security that you are implementing, that must be remain scalable throughout your implementation of the vehicle. It gives you the hardware protection because it is implemented at the hardware layer, and the maintain performance of your vehicle, because it doesn't give a lag on the ECU startup time, and so that's why the performance remains there. We get a boot and in a proper time environment, and then the ecosystem provisioning. So we get the complete provisioning of the devices through this. So how this is how this IC is added to your issue is this way. So we have these CAN transceivers. So we have the microcontroller, and thereafter we have the CAN transceivers. So directly earlier we had the CAN transceivers, which goes to and to the from the transmitter to the receiver, direct communication. Generally, it is being designed, but here the security IC is implemented in between, and then crypto engines, the CAN environments, and all the ports are being there into this security IC. And then if we are implementing these CAN FD protocol, so like a 32-bit or a 64-bit communications that we are going to have payloads, so we can transfer the data over here also. So this impacts a lot onto the ECU hardware, and generally from the top view it appears as a CAN transceiver for the host MCU, but actually it is a security layer that remains added into it, and thereafter the data is being stored, the kind of keys are being implemented over it, and then it is forwarded to the receiver unit. So from the transmitter to the receiver unit. So I'm seeing it one by one. So from the transmit unit, you can see that we have a host microcontroller, and from where the data is coming from, that goes into this security IC, that secure authentication chipsets, where the crypto engines are working, that the certificates are added over it, and it is loaded onto the CAN transceiver. This host MCU gives the data in a frame format, and that is the CAN frame format that we have. So we have the controls, payloads, and these CRCs, acknowledgements, and then the EOF. So these are our frame segment for our CAN communication. If you have worked on, so you must be knowing about it. And then after the CAN, on the top of the CAN payload, the data payload, we implement these session sequence numbers and the MAC number of the chipset that is been. So secure engine, that is, so SE is the secure engine, that is, and it has been added over here. And then it is got loaded onto the CAN FD. And we have this a payload feature. So in this data field, if you see, so in the CAN FD, we have the identifier, the control fields, and thereafter in the data field, we have this complete CAN frame along with the authentication. So this is a complete CAN FD frame that we have. And in this, the payload, which is there from the host microcontroller of the CAN payload, thereafter the secure engine, session sequence numbers, and the MAC, those things are implemented over here. And then this goes to the receiver side. So here, the transmitter side, the data is completely been formed in a complete CAN FD frame. And this is now going on to the receiver side. Now here the actual authentication will be done, that the receiver will check that whether the data that is coming from the transmitter side is a correct data or not, or whether it is tempered or not. So these things are checked at this end. So just data came to this, and the security IC, so CAN-FD messages come to this security IC. And if the sequence and the MAC, which is there, because once you are doing the communication, so you have the MAC mapping. So if the sequence numbers, the session sequence numbers, and the MAC are matching from the original CAN 2.0 message, so it will accept those messages because it has the information from them. And if the sequence number or MAC is not valid in the communication, or if it is not matching, so what happens that maybe there are the two cases that may be. So one is that the you are doing a communication, your two of the vehicle elements are doing a communication over this CAN communication line. So either that is the original spares or original component from the vehicle manufacturer, from the OEM. So they will have the valid MAC IDs, and from the OEM, the session sequence number will also be in a sequential manner. So this will be there. And if the session sequence number is not matching, or the MAC ID is not matching, it must be that some spare from the other OEM is being implemented into the vehicle architecture, or maybe some third-party device is trying to communicate with the vehicle. So that's how this so this secure IC will just deny the communication from that source, and that's how the our data will remain safe. So either this is majorly done at the receiver end, and so this is a two-way communication. So here I have shown you that how the transmitter to the receiver side, the data is being discarded if it is a not valid one, and the same will happen in case of the sending to the if you are sending from this host microcontroller to the other side. So this can be implemented over the existing CAN network. So it is not like that we have to implement a separate CAN layer onto this. So maybe you have multiple ECUs into your vehicle. They are implementing the CAN. They have implemented this CAN. So you need to just re-architect your ECU, and so you need to just reconnect, re-architect, and attach the security layer into your ECU, and you are good to go with this. So you will just at the hardware layer, you will attach these secure authentication ICs, and thereafter you will need to update into your firmwares related to the private and public keys that you are going to implement, and it could be received at the other end. So the existing vehicle architectures could also assimilate these secure authentication ICs into it. And that's how the ubiquitous communication that may happen from one ECU to the other. So one, like here, A is first communicating to E, thereafter E can communicate to B. So we are implementing this, we are using this, our previously arranged CAN FT network communication line that is running throughout our vehicle, and using the same, it can just work on. So we can keep increasing our session keys, and all the Mac are being mapped with all the ECUs with the respect of these secure keys, secure chipsets, and the communication can happen. So, and it is also possible to implement in a tier-wise architecture, like you have just selected the among the multiple ECUs, you have just selected the some particular ECUs to implement it in a first way for first stage, thereafter in a second stage. So that's also possible. Or maybe you can group the communication lines also, like you have the ECU related to the engine parameters. So that could be grouped together for a particular communications. You have ECUs for the infotainment and the temperature control system, so that could be grouped together. You have issues related to the uh, vehicle diagnostic systems, maybe, so that could be a separate. So such kind of architecture that you can provide. It is not necessary to send all the issues communication to everyone. So you can provide a grouping also by the mapping of these secure chipsets. So it is any MCU, any ECU can be connected with these. Now it is the hardware secure TLS that I was talking about. So these it is in this network layer. So transportation layer security is also very important one, and this transportation layer security actually gives this hardware cryptographic functions and from the host microcontroller. So this is possible through the APIs that is been available. So normally we have earlier these APIs implemented into the firmwares for giving these security, but this TLS, this hardware chipset, this secure authentication chipsets has the feature of the provision of the TLS level of security also. So that could be implemented over here, and we get this SSL along with it. So in our main host a microcontroller, we have the firmware, thereafter the software stack is there, the secure authentication software stack, and the SSL, the certificate. And thereafter, it is the security IC that is implemented, and then it can go the communication, it can move the communication from the transmitter to the receiver end. So all the kind of algorithm computation job that is being done by these security ICs over here, and it requires a very minimal amount of a code. So even without involving more program space, more firmware space, you can implement the security layer first. And the second thing that you get with these security ICs, that you are very good on the performance, because normally what happens that if you implement the security algorithms into your firmware, so you are losing on time, even in the range of the milliseconds to it can go on to the range of seconds also, depending on the level of complexity of the algorithm that you have. But if we have these implementations, so we don't have to waste time for the we don't have to waste space first, the code space, code blocks space for storage of these algorithms. And second, by the partitioning of the boot sectors, so we can start our uh, issue in a particular proper timed environment. So it keeps the authentication and the agreement and the storage. These three features, the secure IC that gives you. So keys are a very secure way to work with this, and they are protected in a complete secure environment. So whenever we are implementing any of the component of these connected vehicle domain, so there are lots of components that we can see. We have the lots of communication parameters are there. So starting from the USB to Ethernet, thereafter we have the CAN communications, thereafter we have the CAN FT that is going through, LIN protocol that is going through. So we have multiple protocols that is going through our vehicle network. So it starts with the risk associations, the assessment of the risk, that which are the attack surfaces that will be with your vehicle, and of how we can assess the risk that is there with that particular attack surface, and the communication line which we are implementing, the protocol which we are taking, which we are using for the communication. So how prone they are for the attacks. So this is the security consideration that is must be taken care of in the vehicle. And with the increasing amount of the autonomy that is being given to these vehicles, so so we need a particular secure environment for each and every kind of attack surfaces. So not only the manual kind of secure environment that I'm talking about, but the automated uh, uh, environments for the provision of the security. And that's how we will be able to scale the systems from the top level to the top level, and it will remain interoperable. So from the vendor to vendor, it will not remain a problem. So you know that the once any of the vehicle is made, so there are the multiple vendors are providing their spares, and all of them come under the ecosystem of the OEM. So interoperability remains in that case if we have these implementations, and it will be there for the complete ecosystem. So it starts from the scalability to the interoperability that it provides. Like we are not limited to the firmware only. We are not limited to the secure key storage into your firmware layer. We have a separate layer for the storage of these keys, and providing the TLS level of a security. It can provide the maintenance. It can give you the maintenance. It can be a hardware protected, and it can preserve our legacy systems also. So because we can implement these things, as I have discussed you, we can implement these things into our existing vehicle network also, and that's how we can preserve the legacy systems. So with these things, the three pillars of automotive security are there: the secure key storage, the boot sectors, and thereafter the authentication. So all of the three things could be achieved using these secure authentication layer addition into your uh, communication. So that was it related to the session today.